What's up, Priinston? Coming to you from this universe. I'm out here in front of this abandoned building. You might be wondering, why are you out here in front of this old abandoned building? Well, in this video, I want you to take a journey with me. A journey with me of how to overcome failures. Now, when you look at something like this, you can see that it's obviously failed. It's something that hasn't succeeded over the long term. But I want to talk about how in your own life, there's things that you have, things that you could succeed at, but because the way you look at failure, you haven't succeeded at them, or you keep running into roadblocks that are stopping you or impeding your progress.
Your job fired you. Your girlfriend broke up with you. Your mom's about to kick you off the couch.
And how? If you watch this video, I can tell you a couple of things that you can use today to help you not end up a failure.
Go out there. Go get you a better job. Go get you your own motherfucking apartment, your own condo, so your mom can come stay with you and you can kick her off the couch. Wouldn't advise do that. But take massive action, guys.
Let's get right into it.
Priinston, where are we going?
To the future. To the future. So I want to start this video off here in this old ancient town square, which is, of course, a failed city, whatever, right? And I want to talk about one of the biggest reasons when it comes to entrepreneurship that people don't succeed is because they don't understand the nature of circumstances. But before we go delve deep into the nature of circumstances, we have to first establish one thing in your mind, and that's what I like to call frames. The frames that you look through the world from. So basically, a frame is a set of beliefs that you have that you filter the world through. So for example, I talked about before that when I was younger, I didn't believe that I was a social person. So everything that I did was filtered through that frame. So for example, if I wanted to go out and be the leader of an organization or something like that, I would definitely turn it down because the frame of mind that I was looking through was that I was not a leader. It's really one of those things where people tend to filter the world through a certain set of circumstances. So I know you have friends and family members who they look at any situation, they maybe find the negative. Or maybe you, on the other end, have somebody who's very positive and everything they look at, they find some way to reframe it positively. I want to tell you a story that I heard recently that illustrates this point beautifully. So there's a scientist and there's a farmer, and the farmer is tending to his land. So there's an old pond right next to the farmer's land. And up walks this scientist. He walks over, he pulls out a container, and he scoops up a sample of the water in the pond. He examines it for a little bit, he looks at it, then he looks over to the farmer and says, look at it, just look at it. If we could only measure this, we could see millions upon millions of universes that exist inside this one container. And he looked at the farmer, and the farmer looked back at him a bit puzzled and said, I know there'd be tadpoles in that water, but they'd be easy to catch. Now, while the natural scientist, he saw a beautiful world, he saw something that was so great, so powerful, the farmer only saw an old mud puddle because the frame of mind he looked at it through. So, for example, the scientist, he knew things about measuring the pond, measuring the things that were within the pond, but the farmer knew nothing about those things, and the frame of mind he looked at it as is just a dirty old pond. And that's pretty much how it goes when it comes to entrepreneurship. How you frame the circumstances that are around you are the way that you're going to start interpreting things around you. So let's talk about a way to start framing things better to help you succeed. So now we're in Midtown, and what I want to talk about now is go back to the first point I was talking about, which is the nature of circumstances. Now, most people, when they look at circumstances, and this is one of the biggest reframes you have to make when it comes to being successful or overcoming failures, is that what is the nature of circumstances? Now, typically, when you look at a circumstance that happens in your life, you may think to yourself, well, this is horrible, this is bad, it's fucking me up, I'm not getting to the place I want to be, and why is this happening to me? You may form a victim complex. Instead of looking at the circumstances for exactly what they are, one of the oldest known stories that people tell when they talk about learning from the lessons that you have in life is a baby burning its hand on a fire, right? The baby goes and it touches the fire, and that's when it learns that you don't touch fire. But that simple story illustrates the point of how circumstances work. Everything that's happening in your life right now, everything that you're going through, everything that's ever happened was meant to teach you something. But what most people do, and what you might be doing, is you're looking at the circumstances and saying, well, there's nothing for me to learn from it. There's nothing that I can gain from that. But if you really looked, if you delve deep into the circumstances, you would find some lesson, something that you could take from it, something that could help you get to the next level, something that's going to teach you in the future. Look at it like this. When a baby puts his hand in this fire, no matter what, he still has to feel the pain of the burn. Even though he's learned the lesson, he still has the sting, his hand's still burnt. And that's the same way with circumstances. With a circumstance, you still have to think about, okay, what do I learn from this lesson? And until you learn the lesson, it'll keep repeating itself over and over. I know you've seen people in your life, they have bad relationships, they have poor friendships, they make poor choices, and they tend to make that same choice over and over again. But why is that? Because they're looking at their circumstances and they're not learning from them. The nature of circumstances is for you to learn from them. If you take circumstances and switch from thinking about how you're so unlucky or why you're such the only person who has these problems, they say in personal development, the more personal it is, the more universal it is. Whatever excuse you have, whatever problem you have, look it up. Somebody's beat that problem. Somebody's beat that excuse. And if you reframe to thinking that every circumstance is meant to teach me, then you will be able to change and start becoming a person who overcomes failure. So now, as you see the city in the background, there's a place that's more thriving and that has succeeded in the traditional sense. But what I want to talk about is how you can actually start thinking about failure and actually pushing through failures. Now, I recently started a workout, and during workouts, if you're a fitness person, you may be familiar with this concept. They have something called to failure, which means you do an exercise until you fail. Now, this was a new concept for me because I'm not really a fitness person. Now, I always try to stay fit. I'm not a big fitness person. But why the concept was so interesting to me is because one of the exercises called to do calls to do push-ups until failure. Now, I've done probably at my best maybe 70 to 80 push-ups in a row. And I thought that was my absolute best. But when I went to failure, what I found was that the amount of push-ups I could do was a lot more. And a lot of times when it comes to life, we don't do things until failure. We do things till we think we have to stop, or till we think that we don't have to go any further. I'm gonna tell you something happened when I was in college that really hammered home this point to me, and it wouldn't be years later till I actually realized it, but it was when we were doing an event we called Omega's Next Top Model. Now, this event was back in the day when Facebook, you could reliably count on how many confirmed guests would come to the event. So this thing had over 2,000 confirmed guests. The auditorium itself held 700 people. Now, this was a scholarship pageant, so people's parents, people's family, people were traveling from out of town, out of state, in order to come see this event. Now, I was over the event, and the day of the event, a person was supposed to reserve the venue. Now, you had to go to Student Government Association to actually reserve the venue. And the actual day of the event, I found out, I got a call that they said, yeah, they're over here, they're tripping because they're saying we haven't reserved the venue. Now, keep in mind, this is the day of. There's people's parents coming in. There's all the entire schools. People already lining up for the event, and we don't have the event reserved, and we don't have the venue reserved. So I told people, you know what? I'll go down here and handle it. So I went over to the Student Government Association. I walked up there, and immediately, as soon as I got there, now I won't say her name, but she was known for being a bit of a hard ass, and she didn't want to let us get the venue the day of. So I walked up there, and somebody already went up there, and they were saying, well, you know, they're not giving it to us. I can't get it. And I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll go handle this shit. So I walk up there, and I get up there. As soon as she sees, she said, I already know what you're up here for. And no, I'm telling you, no, it's not going to happen. Y'all should have been more organized, and then y'all would have been able to get the venue. Now, I sat there, and I looked at her for a second, and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just going to keep going until there's no way to move forward, until I absolutely have to fail. I told her, I said, look, I have people's families coming in. I made a mistake. I understand I made a mistake, but I can't take no for an answer. I can't take no for an answer. Me and her argued for 30 minutes. She's telling me how this is irresponsible, how you should be more organized. And these are things I know because I thought we had the venue reserved. But I sat there, I weathered it, and eventually after about 30, 45 minutes, she said, you know what? If you can take this downstairs to the lady who actually signs off on reserving the venue, then I will allow you to get the venue. So I said, bam, one, but it's not over yet. I walk downstairs and the entire thing repeats again. She gives me the same story about how you should have been on time, how you should have reserved it. Once again, I sat there and I said, look, ma'am, I have people's families, I have people's mothers coming in. This is something where thousands of people attend and I can't take no for it. I just can't have the venue. I understand I made a mistake and I will personally put in the actual request for venues in the future, but we need this to happen. She sat there and looked at me, about a blank stare for about 10 seconds. She said, you know what? Don't ever let this happen again. And I looked, and the sigh of relief I felt was amazing. But also I felt great because I went in there, I'd actually closed, I went in there, I kept going till failure, and I found out that even though everybody else had made excuses why it couldn't be done, I went in there and I got it done, made no excuses, and I got the shit handled because I was willing to go through the failure that that most people would just give up. When most people would have took 4 or 5 rejections, to her telling them, no, it's not gonna happen, there's no way that's gonna happen, most people would stop. But you have to be a person who doesn't stop. And just by doing that, I was able to get the venue. It became one of the biggest events that ever came to the school at that point. It was something that people were talking about still today. It was an actual reality show, and we were able to close an event and do something big because I was willing to go through failure. But what if I just would have said, you know what, I'm not gonna do that? What if I would have said, you know, I'm gonna give up the first time somebody gives me a rejection, the first time somebody says no? Then I wouldn't have been going to failure. See, the big thing you gotta remember when it comes to anything in your life, if your success is worth it, if your time is worth it, if what you're doing in life is worth it, you have to be willing to go till failure. And if you're not willing to go till failure, it doesn't matter how you look at the world, it doesn't matter all the knowledge, the strategies you get, until you're willing to push yourself to your limits, it's never gonna be, you're never gonna be able to overcome failure. And that's what we're concerned with, overcoming failure. So go to failure and make sure that you're pushing yourself to the absolute limit. So I wanna wrap this up and then also give you your massive action challenge for the week. So I want you to remember, a big thing is understanding the nature of circumstances. Everything around you is how you frame it. The lens you look at the world through is going to determine how you're able to overcome failures or if you're consumed by failures. And of course, remember, the biggest reframe that you need to have and the biggest one that's going to help you moving forward is understanding that all circumstances, every circumstance is meant to be there to teach you something. Once you change this mindset that all your circumstances or the nature of circumstances is to teach you something, then you're going to completely shift the way that you do business, that you live life and everything. And also, I want you to remember another big thing. Go until failure. This is one of the biggest things I learned. One of the greatest things I learned as far as entrepreneurship is that you have to go until failure. Look, I see people all the time. They're going through life. They're trying to do things and they're not succeeding. They're not living the lifestyle they want. I see friends and family that are not getting to the point they want in life because they're not able to overcome failures. And when you look at them, you look at these people and you look in their eyes, you can see the light fading. You can see them dying. They have no passion. They have no drive. They have no vision. Everything's leaving from them because they're not understanding that you have to be willing to go through failure. This is one of the biggest things that you have to learn. You have to be able to push a little bit harder. The people that succeed, if you're going to be somebody who succeeds, you're going to have to be somebody who says, I'm going to push through failure no matter what. Don't let the light leave out of your eyes. Be a person who says, I'm going to push through no matter what. I'm going to go until it is impossible, keyword, impossible for me to go any further, and you're going to know for sure if you failed or not. And even if you do fail, you'll live life with no regrets. So the last thing is to leave you with your massive action challenge for the week. So this is about reopening threads. I want you to write down 3 things that you gave up on in life. 3 things that you stopped and said, you know, there's no way to move forward, and see if there's any way that you can re-engage those things, start those things over. So say you gave up on trying to learn to play an instrument. Say you gave up on trying to make some type of business content. Maybe you gave up on some type of friendship or something that you thought was something that you really needed in your life. I want you to go until failure. I want you to reopen that thing and go until failure. This could be anything, life, business, anything. I want you to reopen that. And I want you to remember, massive action requires you to push. It requires you to push to get to the goals you want. If you want to live a life of mediocrity, that's fine. But if you want to really accomplish something, you're going to always have to be able to overcome failure in circumstances that are put in front of you. Don't make excuses. Don't be a victim. Take action. And it's simple as that. So join the Massive Action movement. Hit the like button, subscribe for more, share this with a friend, tag entrepreneur, and join the Massive Action movement. And I'll see y'all next week. Because if you build an identity around you, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, I should have been this, I should have been that. There's no shooting to it. There's no right and wrong. If you had parents who didn't do it the right way, you had a mama who didn't do it the right way, and you had no models of who did it the right way or whatever, right? How can you know what's right? The only way to know what's right is to go what's right for you. And the only way to find that is to experiment, is to fail. But so many people are so scared of trying to just go through a little bit of negativity to find their way, and then they let all these other people who haven't succeeded, don't have the life they want, tell them what it should be. Right? Whereas when you, right now, you're going through all this, you feel like, man, I'm the person who, why me? Why is everybody else succeeding? But I'm telling you, I've been in that same position. In that same position, just telling you, everybody's not succeeding like you think. I got people who literally, I saw them go for like 6-7 years. I thought they was like doing it. And then when I talked to them, they was like, man, I wish I could be doing what you're doing now, right? Which is what? Living your passion. What you told me about makeup, when you sitting there and you doing your makeup and the joy you feel, even when it's uncomfortable that you still feel joy with it or whatever, like, most people don't have that. And that's worth anything. That's worth all the bullshit you went through. That's worth all the ups and downs. That's worth everything. Because in the end, when you win, which is going to happen or whatever, that's going to be worth it. that's what it comes down to. Success just because you can post a couple of pictures on Instagram, that ain't success. But when you can really fight through the struggle and really build something for yourself, that's true success. And that's what I'm saying, you gotta look at it like. You can't build an identity around the past. You can't look at how your mama did it. You can't look at how anybody in our family did it. You gotta look at how Bianca's gonna do it. And right now, today, you can make the choice to be like, this is the legacy I'm gonna leave. This is what I'm gonna do. This is how I'm gonna start shaping around. This is how I'm gonna think positive. This is how I'm gonna start moving towards my goal and make no excuses. As hard as it is, and I know I'm not saying like you're gonna leave here and be like, oh, I'm healed. It's just, I'm saying, but it's a day-to-day process of constantly saying, hey, what can I do next? What can I do next? What can I do next? And then once you get there or whatever, that's when you're starting to get control of your life. And everything else, trust me, we can get through that. Trust me, I know how to do it, how to set up, nothing. But the biggest thing is gonna be, hey, you gotta let it out there. Because that's the only way you're gonna ever let it go. You can be an inspiration to the world just by sharing that story that you